Good morning. Once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us from different parts of the world. We welcome you in this roundtable discussion entitled Arts and Wellbeing, Livelihoods and Entrepreneurial Opportunities for Artists and Cultural Workers. We will be exploring today the potential of turning art and well-being projects into more sustainable practices, creating more permanent products and stable employment. Why do we talk about it now? It seems that the meaningfulness and the effectiveness of arts and well-being collaboration isn't doubted anymore. We have major publications such as the 2019 WHO scoping review on the role of arts in improving health and well-being that provided solid data, solid evidence. We also see that relevant policies are gradually developed, and one of the most inspiring ones is possibly the new work plan for culture in Europe, including the priority culture and health. However, we also see that relevant support systems, development of these are lagging behind. Let me quote the 2023 UNESCO report on the implementation of the recommendation concerning the status of the artist, which says, despite a growing appreciation of the role of arts and culture in sustainable development and as a vector for delivering possible outcomes, such as for health and well-being, social cohesion, and economic vitality, support for artists remains uneven. The consultation with member states highlights the ongoing and deepening vulnerability and fragility of the creative sector and artistic practices. I think it's a very, very alarming conclusion. And another report published by UNESCO in 2022, entitled Reshaping Policies for Creativity, suggests exactly entrepreneurship as one of the possible solutions for strengthening the creative sector. And this publication is encouraging the cultural institutions and civil society organizations to create training programs on entrepreneurship for artists and cultural professionals so that their goods and services become more competitive on the national and international markets. My name is Inga Surgunte. I'm working as Culture Program Director at the Latvian National Commission for UNESCO. I'm also a practitioner. I'm head of the Arts and Prescription in the Baltic Sea region project part that takes place in Cēsis municipality, Latvia, and I'm also representing Latvia in the European Commission OMC group on culture and health, and I will be very, very happy to facilitate today's conversation around entrepreneurial approaches in arts and health field. During this discussion, we will go through three major themes. In the very beginning, we will explore the access points for the artists and creatives to start collaboration with the health and social sectors. Then we will continue by sharing good practice examples, so case studies that are already in place and that can inspire us and that we can learn from. And then we will talk about skills and more support that is needed to strengthen our initiatives with the entrepreneurial approach. And hopefully we will also have a couple of minutes for a free wrap-up from all those involved. But before we start, let's learn more about the project that makes this discussion possible. And therefore, I'm passing the screen to Krista Petijärvi, the acting head of the NDPC Secretariat, who is the main author and coordinator of the project and can tell us about it the best. Hello, Krista.
Hello, Inga, and good morning, everybody. I'm greeting you from sunny Helsinki this morning, and just very thankful that we are all joining online. Thank you all the speakers, and thank you everybody who's taking the time to join us and participate in the webinar. So I will be briefly sharing information about Northern Dimension Partnership on Culture, and I will also tell about the partners of this Awake project. Then just very briefly tell you what this Awake initiative is all about. So my name is Krista, and we are actually the NDPC team. We are based in Riga. We are 5 people working for how to strengthen the role of arts, culture, creative fields in sustainable development. This is our mission. And this mission has been given to us by our stakeholders, who are the ministries of cultures of our 10 partner countries. So we are a joint partnership of 10 countries, but not only working with policymakers and ministries, but we are keen to work with the experts and developing sector or dimension of our cultural creative field, and of course together with the practitioners, with the grassroots actors of the cultural field. So we see we have a quite important mission with strengthening the role of arts and culture in sustainable development. Thank you, Elina, for going forward in the presentation. What we believe in at the NDPC is that we actually think that the skills that the creative and cultural sectors have, the professionals in our field, that they are a really essential force in crafting this sustainable future that we actually not only wish for, but rely on. And we think that we need to engage this collaboration and engagement, inclusion of the artists, the cultural actor, the creative actor, to work with other sectors in collaboration for these joint goals. So we think that how, in practice, arts, culture, creative fields can have an impact in sustainability, it's much about these practical collaborations with other sectors, new forms of collaborations. And here, of course, the work in arts, culture, combined to health and well-being is a prominent sector and field where we can see this is happening in the real world. So we can go forward. So for NDPC, how we work is that we initiate and take part in projects where we see that we in practice can develop this connection of arts, culture, creativity to sustainable development. And Awake is a really important initiative for us, and we are really happy to have the chance to implement this project with amazing partners. So even though we work especially in our field of 10 countries in the Northern Europe, we do collaborate with European stakeholders in more wide. So we are happy to work in this project with our partner in Bordeaux, France, Pôle de Culture, which we see as an important focal point in its region to connecting arts and culture to the health sector. So this focal point activity is something that we really want to learn from. In Helsinki, Finland, we have Lapinlahden Lähde, which is a really important actor in its in the city, and actually also more nationwide. It is a physical establishment of an old mental hospital that has been taken over for all diverse activities connecting arts and culture to mental well-being and health. So it is a really, really great partner for us in this project. And then we have Cluj Cultural Center in Romania, who is here in this project, especially supporting us with the knowledge and evaluation. And today, actually, we are talking about this webinar being the first part of the session, since we will be continuing after this webinar in more dialogue in another Zoom. But then we know that in Bordeaux, France, there will be a discussion today in French, and then also in Helsinki, in Lapinlahden Lähde, physically on site in Finnish. So great to have these second sessions going on today. I want to mention also just briefly that we have great associated partners that are supporting our mission and building up the knowledge together. And these associates come from Estonia, Latvia, the Netherlands, and Finland. Yes, then we can go forward. But why this project and what we are actually trying to do? So we want to explore the intersection of arts and well-being, especially from the perspective of creative businesses and livelihoods. We think that there is actually quite a lot going on of interesting initiatives and activities with high quality of artistic work in this field of arts and health, arts and well-being. But we think there is a need now to actually explore and forward discuss what this means in terms of livelihoods for the artists and cultural workers. How can we actually develop more sustainable livelihoods for the artists and cultural workers? This discussion is just emerging. So our objectives is to build the skills and capacity of arts and cultural professionals who already work in the field, but also bring new knowledge and access to the field for the ones who are newcomers. Then we want to really build on these entrepreneurial skills in this specific sector. So not in general all kinds of entrepreneurial skills, but what are actually the entrepreneurial skills that are needed in this very, very specific sector of arts, culture, health, and well-being. We want to enable transnational peer learning and knowledge exchange because we do know that no nation or no bubble can develop this on its own, but we are really relying on the international knowledge sharing of best practices in Europe and more wide. And we want to, of course, raise the awareness of access points. Does it exist? What are the access points for artists and cultural actors to work in the field? What is sort of the state of play of access? Then we can go forward. So what we suggest in this project is that this entrepreneurial approach can be one strand to be explored as a possible source of livelihood for the arts and cultural professionals. It might be one strand, and we want to further understand, could it be? What are the barriers? What are the potentials? And how we see it in this project, what we mean by entrepreneurship, it is actually about initiatives that are not grant-based. We can see that this sector is quite fragile. It's a lot about very short-term initiative, about small project fundings, and less about more continuity, larger investments. And we want to see what kind of entrepreneurial models are there and how are they based? Do we have this kind of service and business as usual approach in the field? What's the state of that? And how we see in this project this sector or well-being. So we are talking about it in a very wide sense, not only health within hospitals or formal institutions, but in a more wide way, also the social sector and the more informal sector of well-being professionals. And I think there was one more slide, and this is about the practical actions of Awake, what will happen in practice during this 2 years that we have with the project. So we want to provide valuable educational material that will be open for anybody's use. It will be a casebook of these entrepreneurial models that are already existing, that have been proven that they work. So we will benchmark and scout, and we will provide them in a casebook format for anybody to further use and learn from. Then we will provide some training opportunities, which are workshops and an online boot camp for practitioners to learn more about these targeted skills and come into international dialogues with colleagues. And then we will facilitate forward discussions like this to share knowledge, to facilitate forward the discussion of entrepreneurial models and livelihoods in the arts and well-being sector. I think this was from my side. I hope we all enjoy the discussion, and I will pass it on forward to Inka. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista, and thank you for showing how actually the international guidelines and declarations can be put into practice through projects like this. And I think this is the only way how it can work. The United Nations and UNESCO can inform us about the trends and possible visions, but projects like this are making them happen, and I think it's super inspiring. So we have heard a bit from the international perspective and from the team of the project. And we think it's a great moment also to ask you, our audience, what do you think? So there is this suggestion that creative business could provide livelihoods for arts and well-being practitioners. Do you agree? Do you think there is a need for entrepreneurial approach in this field? Is it useful? Is it worth exploring? We invite you to submit your point of view through Menti.com. Please go on the site of menti.com and use the code that is here on the top of the slide, and feel free to add your answers. We will be looking at the results of the Mentimeter survey later on. And I see my colleague Elina also adding the QR code that also can be used to access the survey. So finally, it is the moment to introduce our great speakers, our participants, panelists, and they are already here. And just when I'm introducing you, I'm inviting to switch on the cameras and maybe also say hello to our viewers. And we will start with Angelica Postu, who is the lead advocate of music therapy in Romania. She currently works as music therapist at the Charité University Hospital for Psychiatry in Berlin. And she's also a doctoral candidate at the University of Arts in Berlin. And Angelica is joining us today from Cayman Islands. It is a dark night there. And thank you so much for being with us at this moment. Hello, Angelica.
Thank you very much. Morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And then we continue with Cornelia Kish, who is actually a big change maker. This is how I know Cornelia. She's head of research and development at Culture Action Europe. And she has been one of the authors of the Culture for Health report that was the preliminary action that led us to the work plan for culture that I mentioned in the introduction. Good morning, Cornelia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Interesting discussions ahead of us.
Then we are ready to meet Tine van Gutten, who is joining us from Brussels, and she's the head of the audience engagement department at the Center for Fine Arts in Beaux-Arts. Tina is experienced in program development involving education, learning, participation, and she has special interest in inclusive practices. Hello, Tina.
Hello, nice to meet you all. I cannot start my video. You should do it for me, I think, but nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And now we're moving to Finland. We have Isto Turpeinen with us. Isto is a dance expert, researcher, pedagogue, but he's also working as senior specialist at Art Health and Wellbeing Advisory Service in Art Promotion Center Finland. And his recent projects have focused on well-being and culture for aging. Good morning, Isto.
Good morning and greetings from sunny weather Helsinki. It's nice weather today. Nice to meet you.
Great. Same in Riga, luckily, finally. And then we have two participants joining us from France, and this is Julie Lederac, who is an artist, cellist, and co-director at Collectif Tutti in Bordeaux, France. And for around 15 years, Julie is in collaboration with the dancer and choreographer Sylvain Meret. And together they're working with and around very early childhood, fostering connections among parents, children, and infant care professionals. Good morning, Julie. All right, hope that we will hear and see Julie in a while. And finally, I have mentioned already Sylvain Meret, who is dance performer, choreographer, and somatic movement educator and therapist. And his latest projects are aimed at exploring diversity, inclusivity, in how individuals and communities engage with and participate in dance music events. Hello, Sylvain.
Good morning, everyone, and we are very excited, Julie and I, to be to take part of this conversation. And greetings from Bordeaux.
Yes.
Is it sunny in Bordeaux as well?
No, it's great.
Okay, then we are just sharing sun from Finland and Riga with you. All right, so we are ready to start with the first set of questions, which are summarized and called as access points. And to set the scene for this conversation, I would like to quote Wendy Gallagher, who is Art for Health Program Manager at Whitworth Art Gallery and Manchester Museum. And some years ago, she has said, "Creating an effective partnership between the health and cultural sector is by no means easy. It is innovative and challenging, deeply satisfying, and on a few occasions, extremely frustrating. However, it always is stimulating and valuable, but most importantly, has real and significant role and contribution to make to society." I think all of us who have engaged with arts and well-being field have learned and have faced both faces of this field, both the very satisfying and sometimes very frustrating ones, because these two fields, arts and health or arts and social sector, don't collaborate sometimes very naturally. So let's talk about the access points, the so-called access points. What we mean by those is aspects that make this collaboration successful, that allow artists and cultural workers to access in a smooth and effective way the health and social sectors. And knowing that, Angelica, you have a long experience at working with hospitals, which are like purely medical institutions, would you like to start sharing your perspective, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, it's funny because I always look at myself as wearing two pairs as a music therapist, and the other one is as a I think ideas come because they interact. Concert therapy, and we take patients from the geriatric department into the Philharmonie to visit concerts, and I realized how much preparation that needs, knowing what are the needs of these patients, who are going to be those who accompany me at the concert. And with every session, I learned more about what the needs are, and it's developing very well. We also started now to realize that we need to be funded not by the hospital itself, but by a third party. So we have applied for a sponsorship from external providers. So the money will come from a foundation.
Yeah, we're obviously experiencing some technical issue. Cayman Islands are far, far, not only in time zone, but also geographically. But from what Angelica has managed to say, I can grasp that one of the access points might be knowing the needs of the audience precisely enough, and also having stable financial mechanisms behind the activities. So I would like to invite Tina to continue. What is the perspective of Bazaar? What have you experienced and discovered as access points to the health sector?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'll give an example. I'm working in the education department, and we've been creating an exhibition with the exhibition team on Hotel Beethoven, but also Danse Brut. Beethoven was a composer, and the exhibition was about democratic and the physical power of sound. Of course, he became deaf, and how deafness is still be seen quite as an illness sometimes in our world. And I think it's maybe my view, it's maybe not all of you, but my first access point would be the autistic programming. Why, for example, in the curatorial board, there wasn't be a curator with hearing disabilities. We've already had a selection of artists with hearing disabilities, but I think the first access point, which is like an inclusive way of thinking and a holistic way of thinking, in linking arts and well-being and artistic sector is like embracing the richness of different kinds of people with very diverse mental and physical states. I think neurodiversity is also a new word which is around us. So how can we create new formats of artistic programming, but also really involve people who have lots of expertise. It's not only knowing the needs, but also involve them in how you create a program, because we don't know how it has to be made or done. So that's my main point to start with.
Right. It reminds me of the slogan, "Nothing about us without us," which was developed by the disabilities movement, saying that we shouldn't really imagine in place of the audiences. We should listen to them and include them in the decision making. And I think it's a really great takeaway. Julie, what have you discovered in your practice? What is a good access point to the well-being sector?
Yeah, you know, I play the cello for a long time now, for all my life. And for me, it was very, I mean, like natural to go to other public, you know, just to not only to stay and to play music for musicians or for people who like music. And so I started a long time ago to play with dancer. And also it was very important to be music and dance. It's like only education without word, you know, and that's why also it's very important and very easy to go to other people and to go to different kind of people, means like baby or people who are in hospital or people who are in a bad situation. And so it's very, for me, it's very natural and very normal to do this, to play for such people. But for this project, of course, it's not so easy. I mean, because it's not like that. I want to go to play to hospital and I go and it's okay. No, it's not like that. We always need like a culture et santé, for example, which is very important because we can work together, we can imagine and how to go there, how to play, how to go with people, and also to work with the people, you know, to work with the institute, to work with the doctor, with the nurse, to work with people, with professional people who are in this sector. You can't arrive like that and say, I am a cellist or I am a dancer and let's do something, because it's not so easy. So it means that we need to work with team, to be like two teams very close and to decide together to do such project. It can't work otherwise. That's what I can say with my experience.
Thank you. Again, a very great and valid comment, having like larger programs that support you with advice and expertise. Sylvain, would you have anything to add?
I'm just going to give you like 3 examples of projects we've been doing the last few years. And the first one actually happens through Culture et Santé, so culture and health, to put together. So that's very important to have someone, a referent person, so that can make link between institutions. So it's very, very crucial. And this first one, so we could enter an hospital, a psychiatric hospital for young adolescent. And we did this for 2 years. And what was interesting is like the first year, the people in the hospital wanted to having artists to come and do something with those teenagers. And then the team shifted over the years. And then at the end, we didn't have anyone known and that started that project. And then we decided to stop because it became really, really unstable and very difficult actually to do. Another project we did, and that is a bit of a different entry. The institution Don Bosco came to us asking the collective Tutti to do something with a young adult with disabilities that like to dance and sing, and they were doing this in their establishment. And the psychologist, the psychologue, and the social educator couldn't really go further. So they asked the company to do something with them. And for 1 year, we started to do like regular meeting and sessions. And then we decided with Julie to create a piece with them. And so we went for creating a dance music performance with them that we could tour actually a little bit in France, and that was like a normal production for the company. And the last one is a meeting with the young audience that we are doing right now, which is like, and that's because of our experience with making performances for babies and parents, which was very new at the time. And we realized that actually a baby audience is a real audience, and it's a fantastic audience. And so that's another entry point. And then we went directly to meet the institution. And then they were really enthusiastic about it. And this institution also has a third of their babies in special needs or disability. So that was a kind of a following up of the other project.
Thank you again. You have mentioned even several access points, and I find it also very nice to see that creativity and being original and offering something that hasn't been offered before can also be an access point next to a person that takes the role of, so to speak, mediator or link worker to supplement the larger programs that are already in place. Now I would like to turn to Isto, maybe from more national perspective. When you hear our practitioners speaking, do you see something that you have noticed in Finland? Would you have anything to add?
Maybe add. So my view is in the big picture in society in Finland and the situation, and the key word here is collaboration. So the first economic and political situation in Finland, it at the moment, there is a demand to burn the fat and the cuts cast, the economical cuts cast a shadow over the future. The time is of uncertainty, but of course there's a possibilities to carry on, just carry on. Collaboration is necessary. We had Finland's big bang, which means the Finland's health and social services reform was run a little bit more than 1 year ago, which means that the new well-being service counties started, and they have a responsible for all health and social care. These services transferred from municipalities to well-being counties, so that we have a new situation, and in that way the collaboration is necessary. So we need the art and well-being in action. There is a lot of cooperation, collaboration, and coordination between counties, municipalities, and of course well-being service providers. And the most important and positive in progress on preventing sector and supporting well-being. So anyway, it's important that how the services can be found. How? There's a lot of solutions in development going on about digital service platforms, private ones and public ones. And one of those quite new one is concept called Tarmoa, which is platform for well-being and health services, and it's based on public service data reserve and run by Digi Finland. Although the situation is somehow in shadow and difficult, but opportunities can be seen in future. And I would describe that we need tenacity and resilience. So in Finnish we call sisu, the sisukkuus, that it's one of the characteristics of this activity. Let's be with resilience and sisu. Kiitos.
Thank you for reminding us of this core concept, sisu, or resilience. And it was very nice how you again referred to the fragility of the sector, which is like worldwide recognized, but then again, still seeing the possibilities and taking action and not giving up is really inspiring. And finally, Cornelia, give us the European view to all the access point question.
Yes, thank you very much. So during the Culture for Health project, we've been developing a guideline for practitioners, and I think soon the link will be put in the chat, also trying to find these access points, and also reflecting on what the previous speakers were saying on collaboration. Very much that is at the heart of the actions that need to take place. Basically, of course, one access point are the healthcare institutions, as were already mentioned, but also if an artist cooperate with academic and scientific research institutions, that's also another way of pursuing these activities. Social or community centers are also, of course, an access point. And as also mentioned before, often if we really want to reach people who are most in need and people who are in special need, and maybe those people might not be able to afford, for example, paying for such services, it's of course good to have a local, regional, national, or public body who also finances at least some parts of the fee that, for example, is paid for the services. Let's say if you have a dance class for for people with special needs, because there is a core element here about equality and also access to culture. So we should really take care that actually the ones who are most in need should also be included in receiving these cultural activities. Then another access point is, for example, businesses. We should not forget that employee well-being can be important for many businesses. So entrepreneurs might think of approaching businesses for providing services. And one additional thing that I'd like to highlight, we were mentioning earlier how important prevention is, which I'm constantly sounding on an EU level, how we should not wait that people get ill, but rather try to prevent the special situation. So working with health promotion agencies actually is also a very good idea. Although, again, there needs to be a further collaboration, probably with some public bodies as well. But actually, with all the evidence that is out there, there is now enough background for artists to basically showcase how their work can help in the prevention side.
Thank you, Cornelia. So we have mapped several access points, starting from very basic practical training, learning about our audiences, up to having larger frameworks on national and international levels. And thank you, Cornelia, for offering actually the entrepreneurial approach as one of those access points, as one of the possible solutions for strengthening this field. I think it's the perfect moment to see how our audience feels about creative businesses waiting for the results. Yeah, thank you for supporting us. I don't know how we would continue if the result would be the opposite. So majority of us do agree that the entrepreneurial approach in arts and well-being is worth supporting and exploring. I would like to invite Krista to share her comment on this. Is it unexpected? How do you see the results of the survey?
Thank you. I'm inspired to see that so many think that there is a strong need, because that is, of course, the approach of this project, that we can explore the need. Is there? And I know it's not an easy puzzle to think about the artistic work from the entrepreneurial perspective, or it's not like black and white. But this is encouraging. It feels like we are on the right track, and that it makes sense to explore this further. Thanks.
It truly feels that we are on the same page with our guests, our viewers. So Now we would like to invite you to participate in the next survey, maybe in a more critical perspective. We would like you to share what challenges do you see for establishing arts and wellbeing entrepreneurship? What challenges are we facing when we start engaging with creative businesses in this field? Again, you can use either the code or the QR code, and we will be looking at your answers later on. And meanwhile, we are ready to continue with the next set of questions around examples of good practices. So it seems that we all are recognizing the value of the entrepreneurial approach in arts and well-being, but we also see that it is an emerging field, and the mindset of it is still under development. But we can also see that there are some positive case studies, some first success stories that inspire us and that let us learn and develop this approach further on. When piloting projects are turned into more sustainable practices, we see that we have to consider financing models, client bases, development of permanent services and products. I would like to invite you to share either your own experience or observations of precise, concrete cases, projects that have been created with this approach. Maybe this time I would like to invite Julie and Sylvain to share their own experience. Please go on. The screen is yours.
Thank you. Yes, as Sylvain told just before, we now, because it's good to speak what we are doing now, we are working with small kids, with baby and parents, and it's a long time ago that we work with such an audience, and as Sylvain told, they are really audience, and so for a long time we make a show, you know, with parents and baby, and this time we decided to go further and to imagine what professional who are working with baby, because when you are a baby, you have professional, and you have your parents who take care of you. And it's a long time because it's like 3 years of the beginning of your life, I mean, in France, before going to school. And so we imagine how it's possible to I don't know how to say, to have art, to have music and dance in such a establishment. And so we imagine how it's possible to create a box, you know, and in this box there is some special things that we create with music, with movement, with a book, with video. And so it's to do something now, and also to keep on, you know, that for professionals, it's important for them not only to keep children, you know, but also to do something with them. And we saw that it's not so easy for people to move in their body, to be really with kids, like not like a dancer, of course, because they are not dancer, and it's not the aim for them to become dancer, but just how the body, how the music, and how the feeling of the sensitive emotion sensation can really help for them how to be together with the kids, you know. And so we decided to create this box. We are now doing this, and of course it's a very long time, and we need for this in French we need also application code, you know, just to have different financial partners, and it's a long work, you know, it's not easy. So when you start such project, you must be ready to be patient and and to be yes, as you told before, to be really in collaboration, in cooperation, and in coordination. I like what you told before, because it's really you can't do this alone, and you really need what you want, but also what people want. So it takes a long time. It's like a link day after day. It's not like that, oh, I am going to do this. This is very important, I say. Maybe Sylvain, you can say a bit more.
Yeah, I'll just explain a little bit how we worked with that. So one of the things we realized working with this kind of people is that the adults were actually the most embarrassed to actually be with children. And so we thought actually now it's not so much about doing something with the babies, with the work we do, which is non-verbal, which is intersubjective. And that's also an aspect that is very important. Maybe we'll talk later, but that actually the science of development and neuroscience really support what we do. So that's something we can really also point out. And it's very unknown. It's very not really part of the culture. So one of our work was to bring this, which, and we are not scientists, but we can really connect those dots actually between the practice and the science-based, let's say, theory. And so one of the things we are creating is something that can help parents and professionals to really engage more with the non-verbal intersubjective element of the relationship. It's very much a relationship. And so developing this toolbox where we can have a book that is illustrated by an artist that shows how to do that. Examples, so we are filming also sessions so we can show and explain and comment on the session itself, what are the phenomenon and what actually is going on, because it's very unknown, let's say. These type of things are not part of the culture. So we are trying to make that more visible and then accessible. And the big thing now is like we're looking for publishers for this book and for that connects with QR code to videos. And so that's something that goes way beyond our, let's say, competencies in terms of, and that's where the entrepreneurial aspect comes into play, because we need some other people we can take on that project and start to also look at business plan and how we can, because now we can let's say what we're going to do, we're going to sell this box with some kind of training. So we are explaining, we are going to a crash, for instance, and we look at the book, we look at the videos, at the music created and all that, and then we kind of train the professionals to be able to handle it and to use it. But how do we do this at a bigger scale? Let's say that's the next part we are working on.
Yeah.
Great. It's a very inspiring example, and also shows not only the entrepreneurial aspect, but many other, like this cross-sectorial approach, that actually there is science coming in and people with different competencies and from different fields. And very best luck to you with this project, and we'll be certainly following you. Tina, what is going on in Bazaar? Can you maybe share something from your projects that have had an entrepreneurial angle?
Yeah, we've started a pilot project during our Hackney exhibition together with a health insurance company, which is called the Cultural Prescriptions. The name already knew by some of you, I think. Those health insurance company already prescribe like sports activities. They contribute financially. So the second stage was to do research about cultural participation and how that will improve well-being. So we've started this pilot project. They had also financial contributions to that. And now in September, the city of Brussels will continue this project with several museums in Brussels. So, which means that this kind of initiatives, we start like a pilot project, could maybe at a certain point become bigger if all stakeholders and collaborations are on board. So I'm very happy with this kind of example, which improves.
Right. Yes, social prescribing or arts and prescription is one approach, one model, which is, I guess, gaining the momentum actually at the moment internationally. There are several countries testing this approach. And yes, insurance companies might be one of the stakeholders involved, but it gives a very clear frame how health and social institutions are referring their clients to arts activities, and it is very much also promoted by the World Health Organization and suggested that countries should try to implement this approach. Great. Angelica, let's try to hear more from you.
You will just hear my voice to make sure that you hear
It's
me
fine.
properly. Besides the project that I described to you earlier, the concert therapy with elderly people, together with so we started the different way. We started training the artists together with the cultural center from Cluj, and we had a great training experience program with them because we realized they need to know more about symptoms and diagnosis in the health system. And we realized that this way we will also help inside the European Union to make a difference between artists and those who deliver art therapies. So to encourage the artists to come with this artistic freshness that is specific for them, with the artistic creativity, and support them to understand what happens in a health environment, whether it's a hospital or another institution, and how can they fruit their ideas and where do they really belong. So we had great ideas happening over there, and we realized we need to follow up on that. So we need intervision sessions to hear if they are continuing to pursue these ideas. So that was a great experience, and we think that those artists who participated in the training and those who will come are those who will deliver this culture and prescriptions that we strongly believe in. At the same time, I have a second example from a happy case, let's say, from an institution that is very well funded. It's a choir in Romania, and the idea started actually from another good practice, music and motherhood. So it's very much relates to what Julie and Sylvain described earlier. We did a pilot project for a choir singing to pregnant women and to small babies up to 18 months. So we did an experiential concert where mothers and fathers came in, with the trolley with the baby, and they were moving around the concert hall. And we encouraged the moms and the fathers as well to sing, use their voice. So it was a wonderful experience. And we realized that we would need somehow to follow up to this experience. So now of developing an app which they could use also at home, to use this choir repertoire, to listen to the music and to see how the mood changes. And this would also deliver study numbers for the science. So I think that this is an example of a great collaboration between an institution who is willing to encourage this, to use the choir that they have, using a music therapist who I chose the songs precisely, to be beneficial for singing and easy to sing for the babies. And also it's a great prevention for depression in the first months of the new baby. So I will final up with an idea that we need to know what we are preventing. So I do prevention for well-being, but what is it exactly that I want to prevent? Is it depression? Is it? So this understanding of symptoms and of diagnosis is extremely important in these projects, and intervision. So staying in contact with the other ones to get inspired. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica. Again, many aspects covered, but from the entrepreneurial side, we heard again about the social prescribing as a model, and also development of new products, which in your case is the app. And I hope you will be sharing the results of it with us. And again, to wrap it up, maybe this time Cornelia would like to share some observations about emerging creative businesses in the field.
Yes, thank you. I think we've been reflecting a little bit what are the elements of success. And I think one key element is really connecting to the audience and understanding its needs, asking what is needed often, really. And in the case of youth, it's also to co-design even the process with them for the creative activity. We should also take into account that policymakers are, of course, looking for efficiency and cost efficiency. So maybe not at the first stage, but at the secondary stage, as an art practitioner in this field, it might be good to think about how you can make your intervention longer term and also cost effective. We know from research that participatory cultural activities in group settings are very beneficial. And because it's a group setting, therefore you're benefiting more people with that. So therefore, from a policymaker's point of view, it's more efficient. Earlier it was mentioned that digital platforms were mentioned, which of course also helps with cost efficiency. However, we have to point out that it is actually much less effective. So actually what is interesting to test is what is the optimal mix of, for example, having a live concert and then maybe having this application afterwards and then again a live concert. So how we can keep people engaged longer term, because many times, not everybody, some people can really just keep on looking digital. However, there is a point where you get this digital fatigueness, and where that point is, it's actually very interesting to explore. And then third thing I'd like to mention again is to point out the loneliness pandemic in our society. So again, the group settings are helping to tackle loneliness as well. So not only thinking about the individual the person who benefits from the intervention, but how as a community, how we form communities, for example, with the choir and so on, and how that later on can help in our resilience against other shocks and stress factors.
Yeah, it makes sense that just before inviting Istu, we came again back to Sisu and resilience as power of people through their own well-being, being stronger and more resilient. What would you like to add from the Finnish perspective?
I said to thank you to Cornelia first to say that we need longer engagement and continue the sharing in the projects and in actions. First, I thought to talk about the hospital clowns, but then I noticed that it's peer-reviewed in high level in health and well-being model. But anyway, I decided to take smaller examples, and one is the Arja Tiili Dance Company, which launched business model called Break the Fight. So it's a trademark, it's registered, and this kind of expertise, BTF covers the various elements of hip-hop culture and as well the multidisciplinary dance and sport activities. So it's connected to music and animated movies and visual art and photography. So it's a live concept of not everything, but somehow suitable for people which are involved with. So the Break the Fight enterprise is a social enterprise founded about 5 years ago, and it offers services, cultural and training services, recreational activities, and for example, workplace well-being days. So working people have the possibilities to enjoy this concept, and they will also consulting. So they are sharing about the knowledge and know-how, how they are doing. And part of that, I enjoy this part, that they have a youth art model. And the company continues developing the art business model, such a hybrid theater model. So the model is registered for action and development. The second is interesting also. It's a composer musician, Markus Pesonen and Katarina Brasau, and she is a social worker, so musician social worker pair, and they have a concept olo, which is something like being, sensing the being, such a thing, olo. And they have in concept, they have a olo center, they have a olo application, and there in application, there is a somatic sound journeys possibilities, and they have a registered approach acoustic body. So they have acknowledged to have a trauma-informed and inclusive approach to support, for example, learning skills. development, social skills, and of course emotional and literacy and well-being. So it's as they say, it's a brain-friendly and body-wise method. And what is wise here, they have a package. There's a place to be, there's a method to do, they have an application to share over the world, and service with wide possibilities to develop. That's my case at the moment.
Thanks a lot. And maybe later on we could also share the links to these exciting projects to learn from each other. Before we move to the third topic on skills and support, I think it's again a very relevant moment to look at the results of the second Mentimeter on the challenges that actually the entrepreneurial approach in arts and well-being is facing. Let's see what issues have been highlighted by you, by the public of this webinar. A lot of ideas. And while we are going through these, I would like to invite Krista again from the NDPC and give maybe a couple of comments on whether this mapping that we have is matching what you learned in the project already.
Thank you, and learning a lot more while listening to you. So this is all very beneficial also to take forward the project. I'm thinking about this when I'm looking at these challenges and barriers for establishing the entrepreneurship. The question arises, who's having the challenge? What challenges are for the artists and cultural actors? What might be more for the arts and culture organizations, associations, and so forth? Maybe they are businesses. What is actually the challenges for the ones who buy the services or enable them in the health and well-being sector? What kind of challenges actually the public agencies are having in facilitating forward this issue? And then this comes to this intermediary and focal point questions. What kind of new kind of professionals we need to tackle these challenges and build the bridges between the different actors and sort of create the flow needed for making this kind of services and entrepreneurial initiatives more used and sort of normalize this kind of approach. So these kind of questions arises.
Yes, we can also see that in several comments, the issue of funding to start actually the activity is raised. Where do we get the money? Where are the funds that we can apply for? Also, the necessity of acting in an interdisciplinary way and also of having a framework around us, a larger framework that allows this interdisciplinary collaboration. Also, I saw a couple of comments referring to the necessity of awareness raising in a more general way to inform the society, also the potential beneficiaries of these programs, on the positive effect of culture on health. I can also say that all of these issues that you have raised, and thank you a lot, they totally relate to the World Health Organization policy recommendations, really encouraging cross-disciplinary collaboration and also the awareness raising and relevant funds for these activities. So we are still, and again, on the same page, and we have to look for solutions. Thank you for showing us the results of that Mentimeter. And yes, when we move on to the next question, I would just like to refer again to a couple of documents that are easily accessible. One of them is the European Commission Annual Single Market Report from 2021 that recognized as a couple of the before mentioned documents the fragility of the sector and also try to map the possible solutions. And entrepreneurial and managerial skills have appeared again also in this document as one of the solutions, as well as creation of fair environment for creators and those investing in creative content. And following this report, the European Commission has launched large-scale skills partnership for cultural and creative industries called the Pact of Skills, where NDPC is one of the partners really sharing the skills and fostering new skill acquisition among the practitioners. And one of the skills in this pact outlined in this pact are managerial, funding, business and entrepreneurial skills, and also, which is not less important, transversal and transformative skills that allow us to look over the borders of our own sectors and start cross-sectoral innovations. So it is very much related, the challenges and the skills that we need to overcome these challenges. And here again, I would like to pass the screen to the practitioners. Based on your experience, have you really ended up in the situation with this insight that you need to upskill yourself or reinvent yourself professionally in order to continue long-term collaboration with the other sector? Maybe Angelica, would you like to share, because we know that you are still training and still learning and still acquiring new skills and knowledge. Could you please unmute yourself?
Yes, I turned off my camera and not my microphone. I wanted to make sure you can hear me properly. I had a double experience as a trainer and also as a facilitator working with this concert therapy program, and I realized that it's very important as an artist to know to describe the idea that I have, to put it in words, to write it down, to translate it into the words of a funding program. So I think that is one of the main keys, because one thing is the artistic dream and vision that I have, and the other one is what are the needs of the society. And the program and finances programs have a special language, and either there is need of help there in a mediation form or of more skills. Also for the artists that I have been talking to, they had great ideas but no frame for it. So where could that lead? Do I have hope with my idea? So I think every idea has the potential, as you so nicely said before, break the isolation. So it's very important to know how to frame that. Whereas the case studies, everything that is peer-reviewed and so on, I think a little bit of statistical knowledge is also very useful when starting a project that I want to follow up. It's important to know what are the keys aspect, and as Cornelia Keys said before, to look at the audience, at the needs, and to question the audience as well, especially in those preventive programs or while working with entrepreneurs or institutions for the workers. It's very important to know their opinion. So in order to implement and to give them offers that are good for them, I think I would allow myself for those in the public who wrote art, described it as a product, I would see it as an offer. Because it's art, so I will not stamp it as a product or as a service, not even a service. It's an offer that helps you to break this isolation, and if you can frame it that way, for sure it will be a success.
Thank you. Yes, we saw that in the challenges map. We saw the relevant marketing as one of the challenges, really translating your actions into the language that is understandable for the client and for the other sector. Thank you for that. And speaking in research language, providing data is one of the skills that can help. Julie and Sylvain, I would like to really hear from you, because you are trained as artist, as a musician and dancer. What new skills did you learn when engaging with the well-being sector?
Well, I start, okay. Yes, but what in such project, I mean, I am always learning. It's like it's always something new, because I play for different people in different situations, and so I can arrive with some hope, some aim, and with time and with the project, it's not as you want it to go first, you know. So this is also, you must be very open. You must be very, I mean, it's good if we know where we go, but often we go to another road, because suddenly it's not this, people are like that, and to play here, it's not like to play here, and if we go this morning, it won't be the same if we play this afternoon. So it's everything. It's not. Of course, we need a map. We need the aim, but we also need to be very open and to be very creative. And I mean, I am not only a cellist now. I am also like a very. I am a cellist, but more than a cellist, because I am a really human. I mean, and I am not a therapist. I am not, of course not. It's impossible. But now with my music, it's like if I am bigger than before, because I am really not only playing music for music. This is not very important, you know, this is not very necessary. And this is very sensitive, and there is no really word sometimes to express what we do. And sometimes it's not so easy with institutions who support us, because of course they know that we need time, that sometimes we don't know where we go, or we will go on another road. But sometimes really when you are really in situation, it's really a word in a word, you know, and so it's not so easy to translate what happened in hospital, in crash, in different situations. And so it's also important to have people who know that we need time, and sometimes we are not going to do exactly what we expected as first. This is very...
Thank you so much for highlighting also this intuitive side of culture, that actually you can't divide it into very precise skills and mechanisms. A lot of it is very intuitive, and a lot of it is just about us as human beings sharing, being empathetic, and having and bonding in maybe in some intangible way. Thank you so much for that. Of course, we are aiming at somehow classifying and structuring what we do, but there will always be some part of it which stays just magic, and you can't explain it. Sylvain, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I can add something, but I'm actually the core of it's exactly what you said. There is something kind of magical, and it's no words can really describe that. But for my side, I think it depends really of the personality of, you know, the artist or the person doing it. I had the wishes to train in dance therapy, so I did a master in dance therapy in Codat in the Netherlands, and then I was always very curious about somatic movement approaches. So I'm very involved in that community and this work. And this is very much supporting and explaining and giving a lot of richness to the work we do. So I would really encourage people to actually do that as well, to really open up to these different modalities and field of research. And somatic movement is not so known, and it's so important, and it's so crucial to a culture, but it's very hidden in a way, and it's very for people a bit, you know, on the periphery. But for the work we are doing, that comes to the physiology of engaging of the body, of embodiment, development, relationship. This is very crucial to understand and to get to know what's there. There's a lot of practices that exist already, and that have, you know, existed for 50 or 60 years, even if it's a new field. And dance therapy also, as for me, has also highlighted some mechanism, especially when it comes to research and neuroscience, and so it's very important. I think that we artists also are able to relate to that and use it and explain it, you know, like because we live it. So sometimes it's easier, you know, we don't live the research, but we live the principles that are explored in the research. And so it's another perspective. So it's always also very interesting to work with research when we can, even though it's pretty difficult sometimes because it's different world, but that would be also really interesting.
Great. I can also totally relate to what you're saying, because we have to obviously collaborate with researchers to learn from them how to communicate what we're doing. But it works the other way around too. We can also teach them or give them the other perspective, and it's like can be very mutually nourishing. Tina, as programmer, as educator, what could you tell about the skills that you are developing?
Yeah, as a starting point from an autistic institution, we've had training ourselves and the staff, but also the welcoming staff at the ticketing in, for example, sign language. So how to welcome those people and to interact with them. That's one of the aspects. And of course, it's a very diverse public if we talk about arts and well-being. So sometimes as an institution, you have to make some choices to really make feel people welcome. Second part is our guides, freelance guides. Actually, we have only one guide for the moment who has expertise in this domain and who can really host people within the arts and well-being when we've worked with them. So that will be a second phase, how to got training for our staff and guides as well. And the third element, which has been very important, is volunteers. They exist and they're so important to bridge in between the institution, between the people we host, to welcome them, to create a WhatsApp group or something. It's those small, tiny little things we sometimes make it necessary to make it a sense of belonging and a place for where you feel home. So there's lots of work to do.
Thanks a lot. I think we have created already the shortlist for the future awake training programs and boot camps with the skills that are very practical and very necessary. And I would like to invite then Isto and Cornelia to look at the support rather than skills, a larger support that can encourage development of arts and health entrepreneurial initiatives. Let's start with national level. What is in place already in Finland and what maybe you see as future vision?
Well, so center point entrepreneurial practices and the support, and the keyword here is maybe, in my case, the understanding. So understanding in administration. And first, I need to say that this, what I'm saying is not directly the task of my working place Art Promotion Center, even though we have a creative net project. I put the link here in chat, and with networking and funding. But this is more about my own thinking on this question, because I have been also a entrepreneurial worker. So regarding politics, it must be stated that the ministries, for example, education, culture, and social healthcare, pay already attention to this in some level. And the vision is that it's necessary to have multidisciplinary administration, for example, including the Ministry of Employment and Economic Affairs, and especially the regional administration of employment should recognize the special features of this field, well-being industry. And in question, this industry is already producing plenty in an economic view, but its potential, it's not used. So it requires company development activities to as a growth industry. So from small size to medium size, even possibilities, large operators. And this means that we need to understand, and this requires, for example, financing things. For example, somehow starting capitalization, that we give up something first, push forward things, which is money, just so simply. For example, we have a Business Finland, and there's a gap between situations that how small the enterprise can be, that it's possible to ask some kind of support. It needs to be larger. It needs more experience. We need a kind of startup perspective of cultural well-being industry, where the well-functioning scale operating model. it's small. We need to understand this business area more wide, shared, and more widely scalable business. Is this enough at the moment? I could continue, but this is maybe at the moment enough.
Thanks a lot. And I think we go straight away towards Cornelia, who would add the European perspective to this.
Yes, actually, as also Inga was mentioning earlier, currently in 2024, there on an EU level, member states have come together to talk about how they can change structures and help the arts and health field, basically. And it's very, very interesting to be part of these discussions. Because policymakers are trying to understand from each other which are the best practices on a structural level in countries that would lead to a better outcome. Because, as we already said, often that these interventions are always project by project based, short term, maximum 3 years. And now that there is enough evidence, we need to see how to have a structural change. It's very interesting to see what are the differences between countries. Of course, some countries are very advanced, and other countries are even just experimenting. So national states are now looking into, for example, memorandum of understandings between the health ministry and cultural ministry, trying to learn from each other. And this is where also Culture Action Europe is trying to help this process, that it fits also the cultural sector, because actually it was very interesting to see all the challenges that came out from the Mentimeter. Definitely there is still so much to do. So, for example, one of the inputs we are receiving and also giving further to policymakers, that in this process, artists should not be left alone. There needs to be some kind of body to be that the artist can refer to in case of issues, questions, and so on. And we should also take care of the artist because the working in these environments are very difficult. So there has to be some kind of a peer learning and peer support. Also, of course, training is needed. And one of the main inputs that we already see, if there are calls in the area of arts and health, it's better if the project duration is longer than usual projects, because you need this time to understand each other across sectors. So it's actually an additional 6 months to really design a good project. And in this process, they should allow for experimentation, they should allow for failure, and also for redesigning, because sometimes you don't get it right the first time, but the second time it actually creates magic. We also propose, for example, to have calls that are two-step, so that you don't have to, when you submit your application, you don't already need to have everything designed, because it takes a lot of time to do this co-designing with another sector, with professionals from other sectors. So if first an idea could be submitted, and then if the authorities think that this is a good idea, then you actually work on really detailing each aspect. And in that sense, of course, the best would be if also the co-design phase could be also financed. That's actually a crucial element. So because currently I think we are doing maybe a lot of smaller projects, because we can't look at the bigger forest, because there is, of course, no funding for that process of let's think big, what can really be changed. And of course, connecting institutions with each other is also very, very helpful, and creating a thinking space and working space for them in order to design, again, good structures.
I think we are very lucky to have you on the European level advocating and understanding the needs of the practitioners. so well, and I feel like we all could continue at least for a couple of hours more, but we have to wrap up.
Can I just say one last thing? Because
Yeah.
we were thinking about the skills that artists need. I see that it has already been put in the chat. I was very happy to discover that actually there has been some people who try to structure this magic that you earlier mentioned into 8 competencies that artists would need. So you can consult that documentation, which is now put in the chat. It's page 35 that kind of lists how you would need to have field-specific competence, emotional competence, ethical competence, and so on. It's all structured together there.
Thank you. So we see that there is a lot of very meaningful and relevant action taking place both from the bottom up and top down, at least on the European level, and the recognition of the potential of arts and health is quite obvious also on the world scale. That being said, we have just really a couple of minutes for you, dear speakers, to share your core takeaways. Just please share a couple of words, notions, inspiration, or maybe ideas for future steps that you have gained during this event. And I will just invite you, as I see you on my screen, and start with Isto.
Thank you, because I need to run to the next webinar, which is starting soon. I have a meeting this week with the regional economic affairs employment officer and Business Finland officer, and they said that we can't expect the state to try to solve all problems with the state participation-based action. So we need cooperation and creative solutions together. So the cooperation, collaboration. And the next thing is tenacy and resilience, sisu in Finnish. Let's carry on.
Thank you. Tina.
Hey, yeah, I think I just repost my first point that involve people with expertise when we're talking about arts and well-being, and nourish yourself. It's so important to understand these health and social issues and the communities we work with. So I keep that on board and on my mind.
We will keep it in our minds too. Julie.
What I like, what Cornelia said, and it's very, for my day, thank you very much, it's let's think big. Really, really. It's like, because sometimes we do something, but I am happy to see that we are not alone, you know, and it's good to see that, okay, we think not the same, of course, but we can go together somewhere. And sometimes it's not so easy, and so it's good to have hope. So let's think big. Thank you, Cornelia.
Let's think big, and remember, we're not alone. Thank you so much for this, Cornelia.
Yes, my comment would mostly be about, again, the importance of prevention and also argumenting how much saving actually that could come from people not becoming ill, not becoming burnt out, not becoming incapable of working, or people who we keep active in their aging and so on, and the saving that you can actually make by not arriving to palliative care earlier. We should think about that. So there is actually this loop of that's why that loop that there is a saving, so therefore it could be more implemented in the preventative side or the early management of illnesses, rather than waiting for people to get very ill and then act upon it.
Right, let's stay in and with culture and stay sane. Sylvain.
Yeah, I would say more visibility, like today, like this wonderful chance that we have to just get together and share ideas. And the other thing is change the culture of culture, update the culture. It's different to do art and culture now than it was years before. So we need to change the culture at some point.
Update the culture. That sounds like a new slogan for the next project, maybe. Angelica, we let you say the final words.
Yes, thank you. Just the words. I will borrow as an artist saying from the music therapy, there is no right or wrong. And I will say this for all the artists out there. As you said earlier, I will allow myself to try and let those magic corners that are unexplainable be there, because they are the source of my enthusiasm. So even if I don't meet the all 8 skills for the moment, I have to try, because each artist is an ambassador that can be on this, let's say, bridge from art to well-being. And that's wonderful. Stay enthusiastic.
Great, thank you. Seeing ourselves as ambassadors, it's very like really inspiring idea and image that we might have of ourselves. Thank you so much, dear speakers and the audience. Thank you so much for sharing, for participating, for filling out the surveys. Hopefully we will meet once again in the future steps of the project to see how our own project and this larger initiative is developing. I'm inviting now Krista to say a couple of words to inform us of another topicalities of the project.
Thank you. And just very briefly, please have a look at our open call for an external expert, which is now open until the 24th of April. We are really looking for support to creating this casebook that I was mentioning in the beginning of the webinar. So to do the benchmarking of good case studies of arts and well-being activities with entrepreneurial like core. So if you feel in your bones that you could be the expert, please have a look. It's on our website, and please share it in your networks, because this is a great opportunity to bring something valuable for our field. But then I want to update just and remind how this project goes forward, and encourage you to stay updated of the project, because later this year we will be having workshops and other kinds of events where you can get involved and engaged. So please do stay tuned for our wake, because this was just the start. And on my behalf, thank you so much for your attention to everybody who participated in this call. And now back to Inga for the final words.
Thank you. I have to keep the wrap up very, very short. So I would just say that I think the major result and the conclusion of this meeting is that we all believe in the potential of the arts and well-being field, and we know what steps might be taken to foster it, to make it develop. And let's just join our forces to make it happen. Now we will be having a break, and we know that our Finnish and French partners are organizing on-site and online events and continue discussion. And so we'll do the NDPC. So everyone interested, please use the link in the chat, the new Zoom link, to join a continued discussion. And this time we will offer an opportunity to you, our audience, to speak, to share your comments, your concerns. So we take a little break and we meet in 5 minutes in the next meeting. Thank you so much and have a great day.